Paperback Rocker, episode 87. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9-foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome, and thanks for checking out my show.
Read Black Dog, the only book that combines backmasking, a werewolf, and a Scottish Terrier.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your old buddy Matt, the Paperback Rocker, back again with another episode of my podcast, the Paperback Rocker Show. Thanks for being here with me once again in this post-hurricane United States of Texas, where I live in my 6x9-foot cinder block shack, broadcasting into the ether my thoughts and opinions and artistic endeavors. And that's what I have for you today, another installment, volume 31 of the Blue Whiskey novel. Yeah, and it ended with a fantastic, if I do say so myself, imitation of Mr. Bob Dylan in the last episode, in the waning moments of the last episode, which bodes well for the future with that really spot-on imitation I did of Mr. Dylan, Robert Zimmerman, because there will be a lot of celebrity sightings in the near future in the Blue Whiskey novel. So when last we read... Let's see where we were. I should have prepared this in advance. Okay, we're on page 174. Those numbers on the bottom of the page of this beautiful novel are hard to read in the dim light, although the text is not. Okay, here we go. Page 174. About two-thirds of the way through the page. A week later, I was once again practicing upstairs, looking down on the alley behind the hardware store, when I heard the phone ring below. I detected Ben speaking, but the floor below my feet and the ceiling above his head effectively muffled it. An hour or so later, I sensed the vibrations from footfalls coming up the stairs. Footsteps scuttled across the wooden floor of the apartment. I sensed Ben standing in the doorway, but I still gazed out the window. "What is it, Ben?" I asked. "Am I interrupting your practice?" "Lunch, dinner, and sleep interrupt my practicing, but not you, my friend." Still sitting in the chair, I turned my upper body to look at him. He had a look on his face my father would describe as sheepish. "What in the world do you know?" I said. "I'm sorry for butting in on your practice. I'll tell you later. I'll just check on my aged father while I'm up here." That's when I knew it was something big. "Don't make me beg, Benjamin." "Dylan wants you to open some shows for him, but his handler insists I provide the set list to be approved in advance." "What's the angle?" "Dylan wants credit for discovering you, but he doesn't want you competing with him. No old folk cover songs. He wants you to fingerpick," I said. "They want us to showcase the differences between the two of you. Grossman says it will be best for both of you in the long run. I tend to agree." "Grossman?" "Albert Grossman, Dylan's new manager. He's a bit domineering, but I think he knows what he's doing." I almost joked, "Unlike you," but thought better of it. My manager needed every bit of confidence in his body, for he was in no way domineering. Ben said, "Work on that set list. Just play your original songs and it will be fine. We're leaving in 3 days." "Leaving?" I said. "Oh, didn't I mention it? The shows are in England." Ben smiled like he'd pulled a fast one on me and turned to go to the front room to wake Chaim and tell him the good news. I turned back to look once again down on the busted old alley. My eyes lost focus, and I fell into a sudden daydream. The alley looked like something out of Cannery Row. Steinbeck was the one author I had fallen under the spell of, despite my aversion to Faulkner. Actually, it was due to my aversion to Faulkner because Steinbeck's writing has no similarity to Faulkner's. I saw dust particles floating nonchalantly through sunbeams, streaming through the window, and felt warm all over, even though it was winter and the old apartment was drafty and barely heated by ancient radiators. I sensed Ben behind me again and turned with a huge grin on my mug. Ben's face was grave. I knew what had happened before he said it. Chaim Epstein died this day, he said. There were no tears from either of us. Chaim wasn't a man who appreciated tears. I stood up and set the guitar on my cot and walked over to my friend and hugged him for a very long time. We had bonded much in the previous year, getting matching tattoos, eating late-night breakfasts after my shows, living together. All of that was nothing compared to this moment, but it meant everything. Okay, that ends chapter 14. As I stand and read to you with lips in need of chapstick that I do not have. But I'm going to fight through it. Okay, chapter 15 here. Page 177. 177. The trip to England was good, but not great. Momentum was building around Dylan like an impending hurricane, and everyone could feel the wind blowing, so much that I was virtually ignored. We played 3 shows, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon, all in the same theater. My performances were my finest yet, but the enthusiasm from the crowds and the English media was less than deafening. It was non-existent. What I thought was my coming out was not mine, it was Dylan's. The trip was his transition from media and critics' darling to superstar. Lesson learned, don't get your hopes up. I flew home alone, not depressed, but numb. I hadn't gotten within 10 feet of Dylan the whole time, and I felt a bit used. That was bitterness taking the place of the gratitude I should have felt. Dylan had given me a chance, but it wasn't my time. Chaim's death and Ben's absence played up my negative thoughts. I made the unwise choice to order whiskey drinks from the stews, 2 at a time. The flight was too long for that. Excuse me. Had to adjust the monitor. Now I lost my place. The flight was too long for that. I woke with my head leaning against the back of the seat in front of me. The plane was quiet and empty, but the lights were on. I sensed that the passengers had just debarked and unbuckled myself. I had the worst headache of my life and couldn't concentrate on what I was doing. I rose and stepped into the aisle and heard a crunch. I looked down to see part of my Ray-Bans underfoot. I detected by the pieces of the dark lenses leading to the front of the plane that they had been trampled by the passengers. The sunglasses had been a parting gift from Ben, one he could barely afford. I groped for an air sickness bag behind the nearest seat, but couldn't find one. I had no other choice, so I vomited into the magazine holder where the barf bag should have been. I groaned and stumbled to the front of the plane. I passed the cockpit without an exit greeting as the captain and the stews were occupied with their post-flight duties. I stepped out the door and onto the movable stairway, which shifted suddenly. I stumbled down and landed on the pavement, puked again, and passed out. "Wake up, yous," said a burly man who had me by my denim jacket, lifting me from the asphalt. Time had passed, but I didn't know but it didn't seem like much. I opened my eyes, struggling to consciousness. There's a limey like... I don't have the accent down yet. Let's see. This is supposed to be a New York one. I should be able to do it. There's a limey like yous on every one of these internationals. Welcome to New York. Up and at 'em, limey. Sorry, I muttered. I stood up and hurried toward the terminal, stopping after a few steps to void my stomach again. This time, bitter yellow bile was all it had to give. I walked slowly the rest of the way, inhaling deeply the cool night air, which made me feel marginally better. The baggage claim area was unpopulated. The automated belts that rotated the luggage were stopped, but I saw the 2 items I checked and felt needed relief. As I got closer, my heart sank. The old Samsonite suitcase that was salvaged from the junk above Chaim's store was fine, but my beloved Gibson Western Body Acoustic, still in the case, was flattened. I picked it up in disbelief and saw tire tracks across it. Tears flowed and I sobbed like a grieving widower. I walked back out to the runway area, desperate for answers. I found the baggage handler who had picked me up from the tarmac, smoking a cigar behind the wheel of his empty transport. "Now that's a shame," he said as I approached, holding the case in front of me like a run-over pet. "What did this?" He took the remnants of my instrument from me and pointed at the case. "You see those tire tracks?" "Yes." "Look at my tires." He puffed on the cigar. I did as instructed. My head was imploding with hangover. "Yes," I said. "My tires are squared off, and there's no tread." "What's your point?" I asked, eminently frustrated by my circumstances. The man smiled, then took the fat cigar from his mouth with his right hand. Using it, he pointed at the plane that had carried me from across the pond. "You're trying to tell me the plane I flew in on ran over it?" That didn't seem possible. "I'm not saying that plane, just a plane." Thinking back to the remnants of my dinner now deposited in the magazine holder behind seat 10A, I said, "I guess we're even." "Whatever you say, pal. Yous ain't a limey after all, is yous? I thought you was a bloody limey." "That's what the limeys say, bloody. I don't know what it means." "It's a figure of speech," I said with my head down. "An affectation." "That's a weird affection," he said. "Yous can make a claim for this, you know." He handed the case with its comically obliterated contents back to me. "No," I answered. For some reason, this was meant to be. I turned and walked toward the terminal. "Crazy limeys," I heard the man say from behind me. He started the vehicle and pulled away, and I could hear the tires squealing on the pavement as the transport turned. The next morning, Ben and I stood across the counter of the hardware store from each other, drinking black coffee. "How was Chaim's funeral?" I asked. "Sad. Sorry I couldn't be there." "Don't apologize. Having you around made my father happy in his last days. I miss the old guy." "Tell me about it, Stanton." "Ben?" "Yes." "I'm ready to give up." "After your first overseas gigs, opening up for Dylan?" "It didn't go well." "Did the crowd boo?" "I wish I could have played off that. They didn't even know I was there. I kid you not, the whole place was having a conversation about Dylan while I played, and that didn't feel good." "You might learn something from it, something that will improve you." "Can I work for you here in the hardware store? I can mop the floor in no time. I'm a great mopper." "You're a great musician. You really want to spend your time Cleaning floors? No, but how can I continue as a musician without a guitar? I had explained to him the destruction of my precious Gibson, which my other friend Reuben had given to me. I hadn't talked to Reuben in forever. Okay, I need to stop there, I think. That'll be somewhat near the top of page 180 in this beautiful Blue Whiskey novel. Thanks for being with me through all these episodes, 86 of them now, 87, counting this one. And as we creep ever closer in a snail-like fashion to episode 100, at which point I will be showered with gifts. And make sure and contact me at paperbackrocker@live.com for my P.O. box. And find my books on Amazon. Find my music on Spotify. Saturn Lander is the band name I record under. And you can buy that music as well from CDBaby or iTunes, whatever your choice, depending on Android or Apple. Okay, so have a great week. I may be coming at you with another episode in the next day or two. We shall see. Thanks for being with me, as always. Have a good one, my friends.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.